the West Street Mosque here in Durban, and then another 2 within a week, an Indian and a European again in the Jummah Masjid, Durban. So there was somebody watching. Allah watches all times, but there was somebody else who was witnessing our work. An elderly gentleman by the name of Haji S.I. Kadwa. So after the second conversion of people in the Jummah Masjid, the man, while he's tying his shoelaces, I'm also on the same bench tying my shoelaces, he's telling me that he had observed my work, what I had been doing, and he likes it very much. And he said, look, I've got 75 acres of land at a place called Brahma in Natal, about 55 miles outside Durban, and I'm prepared to give it to you. So I said, I accept. He said, no, not so fast. You must first have a look at the place. I said, what is there to look? So he said, no, you must first have a look. I was thinking that if there are 50 acres of rocks, I will still have 25 acres of good land. If there are 25 acres of rocks, I'll have 50 acres of good land. And Natal is a garden colony. This colony is called a garden colony with all its greenery and beauty and natural other qualities about it. So he said, no, you must have a look. So I, with our trustees, I went down and I saw the land, and I accepted it, and I started establishing an institution called As-Salam, where I could train Muslim missionaries. It is functioning at the moment.
Ahmed and his family uprooted from Durban and moved 80 kilometers south to the uninhabited hills surrounding As-Salam. He had to chop down trees just to reach the land. Once he arrived, he immediately put his hand to the plow in establishing the institution. But Ahmed was devoted to spreading Islam in the best way he knew how, by speaking. His wife, Hawa, was at first shocked to see her husband doing so well up on the stage.
I thought, can this man talk?
But his talks gained in popularity until eventually he found himself here at the town hall in Durban. He now had a full house of around 2,000 people. Deedat's lectures here were some of the few events in which segregation briefly disappeared. His message was that there were many contradictions in the Christian Bible and doctrine, and that Muhammad was indeed a noble messenger sent by God. Ahmed's preaching began to take over his life. He moved to apartment number 45, Hussein Building, where he put in countless hours of planning as well as budgeting.
We had been doing a certain type of work in that we were using the Jummah Masjid Durban for attracting visitors. So we started advertising the Jummah Masjid Durban. In the Durban Corporation brochure, they give out to visitors, tourists, we saying that visit the largest mosque in the southern hemisphere. For a free guided tour, phone 27054. That was a very old number. And people used to phone and they used to come. Because generally to the tourist, they didn't know the difference between a mosque and a temple. To them now, these are synonymous terms. So they came and we explained to them what goes on. We gave them free literature, and this was one of our major works that we were doing, giving out literature and explaining Islam.
If I were to tell you, you said, look, what is the name of the God that you worship? And if I said Muhammad, for example, if I said Muhammad, immediately you think of a camel driver born in Mecca some 600 years after Jesus, right? And if you know his history, say yes, his father's name was Abdullah, his mother's name was Amina, and he was born in Mecca, he died in Medina, he's buried there. So you have a mental picture. So as soon as you have a mental picture, it's rejected in Islam. You can't have any name which creates a mental picture. We Muslims, we say that call God Almighty by any name. Call him by any name, as long as that name is not contaminated.
And holding lecture meetings throughout the country on different topics where we can enthuse the Muslim with regards to propagation. So strengthen them against the Christian missionary activity and put them in a position that they can talk back and explain Islam.
Meanwhile, his popularity was growing nationwide. He was invited to Cape Town, where he received an overwhelming response. In Cape Town, he lectured in huge lecture halls, including the Good Hope Center and City Hall. To them, Ahmad Deedat was a knight in shining armor who had come to liberate them from the pressures of hardline missionaries and the idea that Islam was not a credible religion. Along with his momentum came the demand for a professional organization which could manage the size of planning and the money he needed to continue.